All right. Okay, so I think this is Q. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. Eric says yeah. All right. So big number Q, the Second Great Awakening. All right. So the Second Great Awakening is a massive religious movement in the United States from roughly the 1820s and 30s, though in some cases it starts earlier, in some cases it ends later. These dates are kind of fuzzy dates, right? This isn't like a firm, dated event. But somewhere in the 20s and 30s is going to be our big time period. The Second Great Awakening is is a Christian revival. A Christian revival. It's largely a response to the market revolution. It's a response to changing lives and changing things where people are moving and starting to work outside of the home, and the Industrial Revolution is starting to change things. Right? When things start to change, we get this cultural backlash, and the Second Great Awakening is that cultural backlash again. So the Second Great Awakening is focused on something called evangelical Christianity. It's the term you want up here. Evangelical Christianity. This is Christianity that is actively spreading its message and converting people. Christianity that's actively spreading its message and converting people. So prior to this, Christianity in the United States wasn't really actively converting people. Not really, right? Like, can you really envision, like, if we think about the Puritans, right, back in colonial time, can you envision the Puritans traveling around the country trying to convert people? Like, does that sound like something the Puritans would do? Right? The Puritans are spending most of their time like expelling people from their cities, right? And like they're most of the time like making themselves totally pure, right? The Puritans would believe, they'd say, I am the perfect Christian. I'm such a good Christian that you will see me and you'll want to come here. I'm not going to go out to you. I'm not going to go sell it to you, right? So this is different. This is where the Christians are actually going out and selling Christianity to people and spreading it around and actively trying to get converts. Okay. The term that you want here is called born again. This is where we're going to get the term born again Christians. So these Christians are born again, and put born again, like born dash again, and put it in quotes, right? Because it's a phrase. You would say, somebody would say, I'm a born again. Right? I went to a camp meeting and I became born again, is how they would phrase it. So a born again person is someone who went through a religious experience and have redirected their life to have their faith be the center of it. They went through a religious experience and they've redirected their life to have their faith be the center of it. So for most Americans, that Christian faith wasn't a really strong central feature of who they were, right? Most people were just Christian just because mom and dad were Christian, right? Like, I was born a Christian, mom and dad are Christian, therefore, I'm a Christian. But it's not like something that they think about all the time. It's not something that they dwell on. It's not something that is like a real driving force in their life, okay? The Second Great Awakening, evangelical Christianity, makes it so it's a central driving feature of your life. Okay, are you guys with me on this? Right, so the United States has been Christian all along, right, forever, right, since the beginning, it's been Christian. But most of the states, most of the Christians just aren't super active. Like, they don't really care, they don't really, if you ask them, say, what's your religion? They'll say, I'm a Christian, but they don't really, it's not like a really big deal. Right? Does that make sense? Okay. It's like a lot of Hindus in the United States are kind of like that, right? Where they're like, yeah, I'm a Hindu, but whatever, but I still have a Christmas tree up. Like, that happens a lot of times, right? Where it's not like a really, really central aspect of your personality. Okay. A lot of my Hindu students are like that. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, Rishab was like that, right?
we have stockings for the fireplace.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, Anika, I'm assuming that you're kind of like that, right? Rishab was like that, where he was a Hindu, yeah, But when I asked him questions about Hinduism and we would talk about Hinduism, it became apparent pretty quickly that like I knew more about it than he did.
Yeah, he doesn't know
Right?
anything.
Yeah,
Even I don't know anything. I know a little more than him, but
yeah.
not as much.
But again, I don't think for either of you it's a really central aspect of your personality.
Being Indian is more of a central aspect rather
Yeah,
than
like I'm not even religious, so like probably less
Sure.
less
on
than
that.
Right. And so
Oh,
your
yeah.
and so your identity as a Hindu is more about cultural identity than anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It's more like a cultural
Yeah.
identity where you guys would be more inclined to say put up a Ganesha statue as art as opposed to a Ganesha statue as
Yeah.
like an object of worship.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is
Mm-hmm.
that's I think that's probably true for a lot of my students who are Hindus. Right? A lot of my students who are Buddhists as well. Right? Where they're like, you know, they got a Buddha in their garden, but it's more art than religion. Right? Yeah. Okay. So this is them trying to do that to Christianity, right? They're trying to make it so that Christianity is like an actual thing that you care about. Okay. All right. So one of the other things that they need to focus on is this concept. The Christianity is going to be different. Okay. They're reforming Christianity and they're changing Christianity. Okay. So Christianity is different. And then underneath there, let's make a list of how it's different. Okay. One of the first ways it's different is something called millenarianism. Millenarianism. Have any of you guys ever heard that term before? Okay, it's a millenarianist. All right, so millenarianism is the focus on the end of the world. That they believe that Jesus is coming at the end of the world and that the end of the world is coming. All right. I know none of you guys are Christians, so I'll try not to get too Christian in the way I describe stuff for you. But this is the Christians believe that at the Jesus Christ came and he saved everybody, and that at the end of the world he's going to come again. Right? That's part of the idea of Christianity. And so millenarianism says that end is coming soon. Jesus is coming back. This is where we're going to get the Mormon Church. Right? What's the official name for the Mormon Church?
Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Right? The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Latter-day Saints, the latter days are the apocalypse is coming. The end of the world is coming. They're in the latter days. That's what the name
They've
comes
been
from.
saying that for a couple hundred years now.
Well, you know, time is relative, right? Time is relative, right? Like, I mean, if over the course of the entire billions of years of time, right? 100 years, what's 100 years? Right? Earth has been around for what, 4 billion years? Something like that. So what's 100?
Like a blink of an eye.
Yeah, it's nothing, right? It's nothing. So now you may be inclined to think that because we're focusing on the end of the world, that they're going to be like freaking out and like despair, and they're going to, you know, whatever. You're going to be like, it's the end of the world. I'm going to go sleep with as many chicks as possible, right? Or something like that. That's not what's happening here. Okay. They're saying it's the end of the world. And so I need to create heaven on earth. I need to make the earth prepared for Jesus coming back. And so it's a focus on fixing society and making society better, right? Fixing the problems with society. As opposed to like Puritan Christianity, right? Puritan Christianity is where you're fixing yourself, right? Old school Christianity, old ideas of Christianity, Catholics, Puritans, all these old ideas of Christianity, they don't believe that you can fix the earth, right? They think you can't fix the earth at all, that the earth and humanity is broken, which is why you need Jesus, right? That's the Christian idea, is that you can't fix the earth. That's why you need Jesus to save you. All of earth is already going to hell, which is why you need Jesus to save you. These guys disagree. These guys are saying you must fix the earth. You have to go through and you have to fix things. You have to make it better. This means that the Second Great Awakening is going to become fuel for all these other reform movements. Right? If I look around and I want to make the kingdom of earth, the kingdom of heaven on earth, can I make heaven on earth if I look around and I see slaves? Right? Slavery is not in line with Jesus. It's not in line with the teachings, right? And so that means I have to oppose slavery. I have to try to destroy slavery because, I'm trying to perfect the human race, right? This also means, can I look out on the world and see, factories treating their workers badly? No, I need to fix that, right? Can I sit around and let my neighbor beat on his wife? No, I need to step in and save that, right? This is going to be this idea that you can and should save society. All right. This is mostly spread through camp meetings. These big camp, they're called camp meetings, and they basically would be like traveling festivals of Christianity, essentially, right? Where you get a preacher, they would come here, they would like build a little stage, the preacher comes out, he's talking to hundreds or thousands of people, right? They would all experience the religious movement, and they're all, speaking in prayers and speaking in tongues. They got their hands up, right? And they're having this big movement, and then they go off to these tents, and the tent would be like, hey, are you from Pennsylvania? Well, we're from Pennsylvania too. Let's give you the information that you can join one of our churches back in Philadelphia, right? And so you go and attend this meeting, and then these guys go and convert you and get you there after you have the meeting, right? So it turns into this big traveling thing, and they're traveling all up and down the East Coast of the United States, trying to convert people. They're traveling, Ohio and Pennsylvania and Virginia and Maryland and New York. And the Second Great Awakening starts in northern New York, in upstate New York. It starts in what we call the burned over district. The burned over district. And the idea here is that there are so many fiery speakers, right, who are like fiery and like getting the crowds all riled up and stuff, right, that there's so many fiery speakers that the whole area is burned over. They're not actually lighting fires, it's a metaphor. Okay, so these red areas of New York are called the burned over district. And so where most of these preachers are coming from. Okay, so let's deal with some of these other theological ideas, right? These guys are opposed to Calvinism. These guys are standing in opposition to the Puritans, in opposition to that kind of Christianity. They believe that good works are your salvation, right? As opposed to just your faith. That it's not good enough to just pray. You have to also do good things. The other big idea here is that they're democratizing faith. This means that your faith is in the control of each individual person. This is where you're going to hear this a lot of times with Christians, especially in the South, where they're going to say, I have a close personal relationship with my Savior. I have a close personal relationship with God. You can put it in quotes, close personal relationship, right? They say that all the time. If you know Mormons, Mormons are part of this movement, right? And so you'll hear Mormons a lot of times where they'll pray, right? And they'll pray for like, they don't know if they're going to, sign up for this class next year, or I don't know if I should take this job, or I don't know if I should date this girl. I don't know if she's right for me, right? And so you pray and you're like, dear Heavenly Father, should I date this girl? I really like her a lot, but I don't know if she's right for me, right? And then God will come down and he'll say, go get some, son, right? And then, or whatever, or he'll say, stay away from her, go find another girl, right? And these Christians in this movement, including Mormons, will believe that God is talking to them, that the Holy Spirit is giving them an answer, okay? Democratizing faith also has two very other importance. They spread out who can be a preacher. So preachers now are open to any race. We're going to start getting the first Black preachers. Okay, so part of democratizing faith is that we get the first Black preachers. We're going to get any race. We're also going to get the first Native American preachers. Okay, and we're also going to get our first women preachers. Okay, some of them are in the assignment that we're doing, the reform thinkers, right? We have our first woman, we have our first Black person, right? When you are working through that group. All right, so let's get some of these big names. The big names of the movement, Lyman Beecher and Charles Grandison Finney are probably the two largest names. They're probably the two biggest names of this movement. I have their backs to each other because they didn't agree on a lot of stuff. They didn't agree on a lot of things. Beecher is focused very tightly on the individual. He says that we need to get the faith of the individual correct, and then once we get all the faith of the individuals, that will fix the group. Finney goes the other way. Finney says we should focus on fixing the group, fixing the organization, and then once we fix the organization, it will help fix the individuals. Beecher's focusing individual up to the group. Finney is focusing group down to the individual. That's why these guys didn't agree. Like, they agreed on faith. They agreed on like Jesus and the Bible, and they agreed on a lot of the faith stuff, but they disagreed on like the method of teaching it. Finney also advocated women preachers. When he would go to his camp meetings, he would do his camp meetings and he would have women preachers with him speaking and stuff. That's something Beecher didn't agree with. Okay, two other ones that stand out. Washington Gladden, he is kind of an interesting guy. He actually takes his Christian faith and applies it to like social groups and stuff. And so he'll start talking about like workers' rights, political groups and workers' rights. And so he'll start saying a good Christian boss pays his workers more. A good Christian boss, does the safety in his factories and stuff like that. Like, so he's attaching it to that kind of an idea. The other one that stands out here is Joseph Smith, who should sound familiar to you guys as Utahns. Joseph Smith is the founder of the LDS Church. The founder of the LDS Church, popularly known as the Mormons. Joseph Smith writes the Book of Mormon, which he believes and teaches that the truth about Jesus had been lost over time, and that he reveals this lost truth, this hidden truth. And that Revelation is what he would call the Book of Mormon. Joseph Smith stands out because the others mostly rejected him. They mostly rejected him, and Joseph Smith gets driven out of the area. And that rejection comes in the form of an assassination, actually. Like he gets like his church is burned down, his people are attacked, he eventually gets assassinated. Eventually, we all know this, but eventually his follower, his student, Brigham Young, is going to lead the Mormons out to Utah. And they find Utah. On the test, you are not going to need to know like Mormon theology. You're not going to need to know that. You are going to need to know that Joseph Smith is the founder of the Mormons, and that the Mormons are largely rejected by the other preachers, and that they move out to Utah with Brigham Young. That's what you're going to need. Okay? Do you guys have any questions about the Second Great Awakening? Questions going once, going twice. Okay, let's move on to the next one. R. R is called the American Colonization Society. I think I might have mentioned this with you briefly. So the American Colonization Society is the anti-slavery movement. It's an abolitionist movement. It's anti-slavery. And they believe that whites and blacks can never live together. They can never be peaceful together. And that they should destroy slavery and send all the black people back to Africa. So they should destroy slavery and send all the black people back to Africa. They think that the only way that black people will be happy is if they live only with their own people and that they have no white people around. This is partially successful. They do send shiploads of former slaves to Africa, and they formed the country Liberia. That's the country today in Africa, Liberia. I'm pretty sure we mentioned this earlier in the year, right? Okay, well, this is where the actual movement is coming in, okay? The capital of Liberia is Monrovia, named after James Monroe, right? So marginal success, okay? Mostly this is a failure. So let's put your next line down is why this failed. What do you think is the reason why it failed?
Because
Go ahead.
Black people didn't have an African identity because they'd been slaves for so long. So their identity was what they needed to be American. So it was difficult to just transport them back to someone.
Absolutely, absolutely, right? The both free Black people and enslaved Black people, neither of them recognize themselves as African anymore, right? At this point in time, the slaves in the United States are somewhere between 3 and 12 generations American, right? The international slave trade is gone, and so these people are all the sons and daughters or grandsons and granddaughters. They're the descendants of slaves who've been here for quite a long time now. They don't speak any African languages. They speak English, right? They're Christians. They are American. As it turns out, most of the Black people in the United States would much rather have, most of the African Americans would much rather have slavery abolished and have American society fixed so that they can be full members of the society. But that's what they would rather have. As it turns out, they don't want to go to Africa, which I think makes sense, right? I mean, there's a lot to be said about that, right? If if some government guy comes up to you and says, Eric Chen, you're no longer welcome here. We're going to go send you back to Sichuan, China, right? How on board would you be with that idea?
Not at all.
At all, right? You'd be like, dude, my name might be Chen, but yo no habla Chinese, right? Right? I'm assuming you don't speak Chinese. Is that right?
Only a little, but yeah,
You effectively don't speak Chinese.
basically, yeah.
If I dropped you in China, could you get a job?
No, I would not be able to get by.
You would have a very difficult time. And I suspect the same thing is true for both of you two also, right? Shiva, Nika?
Kind of.
Yeah. If
I could survive.
yeah.
I
We're
can
like,
get
well,
a job.
we've got ships going back to Calcutta. We have too many Indians here. We don't want Indians anymore. Ships going to Calcutta. We're going to put you on the boat. Goodbye.
Yeah, I
I feel
wouldn't
like he
survive
could
in
get
Calcutta.
by.
Yeah. How's your Bengali?
No, not good. I don't know a word of Bengali.
Yeah. Well, it's a real problem because the ship's going to Calcutta.
Yeah.
It's a real
That would
problem,
be
right?
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your families, are you Tamil? Or
I'm
what?
Tamil, yeah.
Yeah, you're Tamil. Balakrishnan, you're Tamil
Mhm.
also, aren't you? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so uh, we understand the problem here, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's better know a president. QRS. This is S, right?
Mhm.
Oh, it's too bad he wasn't Q. For JQ. All right. So John Quincy Adams. We're not going to spend a lot of time with John Quincy Adams. He is the son of John Adams, right? What was John Adams' biggest problem as president? What was his biggest problem?
Is the foreign.
He had foreign problems. What else? Oh no, you're killing me. What's John Adams' biggest problem? People didn't like him.
Oh yeah,
Right?
that one.
He was really unpopular. People didn't like him at all. People thought that he was snooty and that he was like elite and that he, they just didn't like him, that, he thought he was smarter than the rest of us. Well, meet his son, who is largely the same. His son has mostly the same problems, right? Just like his dad, he has a really strong resume. He's really smart. He is really, really good at doing the job. Just like dad, nobody really likes him. He's pretty unpopular. All right, so he's going to spend, so he was an ambassador before, he was the Secretary of State before. He's going to spend most of his time dealing with foreign affairs, and largely he's going to be dealing with Latin America, right? Because at this point in time, all the countries of Latin America are breaking away from Spain and getting independent. And so he's spending most of his time like establishing relationships with those countries. What does the Monroe Doctrine tell us about Latin American countries?
There are friends.
There are friends, and who are they not friends with?
Europe.
Europe.
Europe. Take that, stupid Europe, right? That America is for the Americans, right? And I'm saying Americans meaning South Americans, Central Americans, North Americans, right? Like America's for the Americans. And so he's really, really spending a lot of his time establishing that, right? Which is smart, right? I think we can agree that that's smart. We need to have a good relationship with Latin America, right? That's really important, right? It's also really smart to make sure Europe isn't mucking around over here, right? Keep Europe over on the other side, right? That's smart, but it doesn't make him popular with the people. They just don't like him. Okay. So, okay, this is where we left off with class. I think I'm going to leave this for next time. Okay, because we're going to elect Jackson. Quincy Adams is the most important thing John Quincy Adams does is set the country up to elect Jackson. Jackson is really important. So we're going to spend some time with Jackson, right? He's really, really important. Adams, not important. Okay. I think we are good here. Do you guys have questions about this at all? Questions going once, going twice. Okay. There's a quiz on Canvas. There's a quiz on Canvas, and I want you to log in right now and take the quiz. Shivani, who never bothered to log into the last one, right? Anika, who has forgotten many of the previous quizzes.
But I'm blaming myself.
Not last time. Last time you did good. Last time you did good. All right. The quiz is 3.2. 3.2, and the code inspired by last night, the code is anxiety.
Nice. Capital A?
No, lowercase. Lowercase a, the quiz is on there. Anxiety. Okay. Are we good to go? Do we have any problems, questions, concerns? Going once, going twice? Sold. All right, don't forget to do the quiz, and don't forget to turn in the Reformed Thinkers assignment. That's due today too. Cool?
Cool.
Awesome, possum. All right, I'll see you guys.
Thank you.